All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by our beer of choice. Of course, that means Johnny Cuba. Hey, we're getting ready for Royal Rumble this weekend. I'm going to have myself a nice fresh six-pack of Johnny Cuba, European roots of the Caribbean soul. I'm going to start my Royal Rumble weekend with a refreshing German lager in a can. You can pick up your own six-pack at Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. Remember, always drink responsibly. It's so easy when you're drinking at home. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us here, of course, you'll read him in the Miami Herald. If you go to any of the, literally any of the pro wrestling events in, I don't know, all of Florida, you're going to see Jim Varsallone up there in the front. He's taking the pictures. Royal Rumble is this weekend. He joins us here. Jim, good to have you aboard. You've been covering pro wrestling for how long now?
Oh my gosh, probably 30 plus years, maybe longer. But I have to say, I got to start with this. Johnny Cuba. What a great pro wrestling name. Come on, we got to get that going.
Oh, that's right. He represents South Florida, Johnny Cuba. That is a good name. So you say 30 years, which, takes us back to few years into the history of the Royal Rumble, because I believe the first one was 88. So, I mean, can you imagine, obviously we see how huge pro wrestling and specifically WWE is, but man, from the first ever Royal Rumble, which was on cable television, it was on USA Network. It wasn't even pay-per-view until the second year. And now, and this started a few years ago, granted, this is a stadium show. And a lot of people, WrestleMania, we all know, is the greatest, but a lot of fans, their favorite event is Royal Rumble.
It's such a setup, too, to WrestleMania, to see who wins the Rumble and now gets the main event match for the men and the women. So this is such a huge deal anyway. And it's just so much fun seeing the surprises, because they're superstars from the past that all of a sudden they bring back for one shot, one show for the Royal Rumble to get in there, scrap it a little bit, get thrown out. Just to see that type of history right in the ring for the Royal Rumble, to me, is one of my favorite parts of it. It's sometimes even more so than who wins the Royal Rumble. It's just so fun to see the nostalgia, because we love the nostalgia factor and all. But you're right, it's grown so much from that USA Network show on TV to now this huge big event. Could be the number two, maybe the number two event, WrestleMania. You've got Survivor Series, you've got Royal Rumble, and you've got SummerSlam. So WrestleMania, obviously, number one. Royal Rumble possibly could be the number two of those four, of the big four.
Do you have a favorite Royal Rumble?
I don't. It's just so much. You watch so many Royal Rumbles over the years. It's just interesting. I will say this. When Ric Flair started as number one or two.
Three.
Number three, and lasted the whole thing. And then seeing the dynamic with him, Hogan, and then Psycho Sid Vicious for the last three, and how that all played out and Ric Flair won, and seeing that moment with him. And Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, who I'm a huge fan of Mr. Perfect, and he was with Ric Flair at the time, seeing them celebrate with the great Bobby Heenan as well, because Bobby Heenan was managing him at the time as well. And seeing that moment, and in that one, actually, the winner of the Royal Rumble was the WWF champion. So they did it a little different back then for that event. And to see Ric Flair and that crowning moment for him, to me, I was always a Dusty Rhodes fan. So I was always against Ric Flair, but to see that moment was really so much fun.
I do believe that was 92. I do believe it's the greatest Royal Rumble ever. And you mentioned Bobby Heenan, who was on commentary, of course, was really at his all-time best during that match, because all throughout the match, Flair comes out, the real world's champion, comes out at number 3, and Heenan, oh no, this is not fair to Flair. And all throughout the whole match, this is not fair to Flair. This is not fair to Flair. And then you get, one of Ric Flair's all-time great promos with a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment of my life. I think that's the greatest one ever. I will say, Jim, I was watching it last night, actually. I didn't have anything to do after the Heat and the Panthers games a couple nights ago, and I put back on the 2020 Rumble, where Brock Lesnar steamrolled through the first 15 guys, and then Drew McIntyre with the babyface turn eliminates him. It might be my second favorite Rumble. That's a really good one.
Drew McIntyre, from doing that elevated himself. And listen, it's been a roller coaster ride for him. I mean, he was Vince McMahon's guy. That was all legit as far as like this was going to be the next coming. And then it was too young, too soon. And it was hard for him to handle. So that was it. But he did get a second chance. And then just seeing him elevate himself, and still today, just one of the premier superstars. But having Brock Lesnar do that too, just the magnitude of the beast incarnate and what he was able to do to steamroll everybody like that. And you're thinking, oh, who's going to stop this guy? There's nobody to stop this guy. Who are we going to get? And then they decide, you know what? We'll have Drew McIntyre do this. 2 big pushes, 2 big rubs right there in one moment. It's so interesting what the Royal Rumble can do. That one particular matchup can do for these superstars. I'm going back to a funny moment. I remember when Titus O'Neil, this wasn't very far long ago, when he came running out. Yeah. And he was running so fast, he tripped and slid right under the ring.
Yep.
It was great, like a baseball slide. And I remember Santino Marella coming in and all.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. And I was thinking, some of my favorites are when they come in, they do their shtick, and they get thrown out right away.
So I've been critical of the way WWE has set up Cody's return. Cody Rhodes is going to return this weekend because, I mean, we all knew he was going to return, or had a really strong inkling. But I want the surprise. I'm bummed that they've completely telegraphed his return.
This just says this day and age of what's going on. Social media, so many eyes are in WWE. Zaz, it was years ago. Mainstream sports media didn't want to have anything to do with WWE. They weren't covering it. They're very few. Alex Marvez, the Miami Herald, was covering it. A few others. Up in Chicago, one of the papers there. South Carolina, up in Canada, very big in Canada. Yeah. I mean, you had to go really to Japan. Japan treated pro wrestling like a legit sport. Look, we all know it's theater, it's show. They're athletes, though. And we know it's scripted. And for those that are watching, they say, oh, it's not a real championship. They know who's going to win and all. But but you have to have a point to put the title on somebody. You can't just put it on anyone. It's got to be somebody that connects with the people. They're going to sell merchandise, put butts in seats. There is an end game to this and why somebody becomes champion. But the thing is, it's just now the mainstream media loves pro wrestling. It's amazing. Sports media, especially. I mean, even mainstream media, Rolling Stone, Variety, all these entertainment publications and websites and all.
What do you think it was? What do you think was the turning point?
I think with ESPN getting involved with them. And they were there at WrestleMania doing live promos, live shots from WrestleMania, and being on board. And Jonathan Coachman, who was with WWE, and then joined ESPN, became a legit broadcaster for ESPN, the coach. And his involvement when they came back and be able to not come back, but do something with ESPN, and he was there and doing that. I think that really elevated it. But the other thing that elevated it even more so, just how big on social media WWE became. And because everything nowadays is about the clicks, the likes, how many viewers do we have on YouTube? So many factors that they couldn't ignore it anymore. WWE was beating everybody. All major sports, they were competing or beating them in different types of social media type of views and likes, all analysis, analytics, social media analytics. WWE was being, and now all these people are looking at the list of what's big, what's hot, and they see WWE, and we're like, and the ones that didn't know about it are like, what is this? And then someone's telling them it and showing them, and they're seeing like, hey, we got to hop aboard in all this. We have to adapt or get lapped. And it was that big presence of social media and what they were able to build with their brand and doing that, not only nationally, of course, internationally, that now all the mainstream media has got to be like, you know what? We can't look at this as a clown show anymore and say, what are we going to cover that for? We're not covering that. It's scripted. Sports will say, hey, it's entertainment. Entertainment will say it's sports. So none of them wants to cover it. But now they're all like, whoa, welcome WWE with open arms. It's amazing to see how that evolved.
What did you make of the craze a couple of weeks ago? Vince McMahon back as the chairman, and then like a day or two after that, look, you know the way the rumors go with the dirt sheets and all that stuff, but it was that Tuesday night. You rumors were hot about them being sold to the Saudi group. What did you make of that 24 to 48 hours? Were you buying into that? Did you get fooled?
I didn't get fooled on that one. Yeah, I get fooled. Everyone does, but I'm not on that one. Listen, anytime they're negotiating TV deals, it seems like they're always in the essence, they might be sold to try to make things a little more appealing, attractive for their TV deal. To me, it's always been about a push for a TV deal. And when that comes about, the Saudi group, especially because let's face it, Live Golf, they can't get any TV.
Right.
They can't get any TV because they're involved with the Saudi group. So from the Saudi standpoint, they got money to burn. It's amazing to see the money they have to burn. They have more money than Tony Khan and the Khans to burn with what they're doing with AEW. So from that standpoint, yes, it could be done. But from a WWE standpoint, other than the money grab, which they've done because they do shows in Saudi, but overall selling the company like that, where were they going to be on TV? It would have been all streaming, and streaming is going to be the future anyway. I mean, it is the present now, but it's going to be the future. But not right now. Right now, WWE is going to get another major TV deal, no question about it. Bringing Vince back, that surprised me. I was amazed. First of all, I didn't think he was going to be leaving, but with all the pressure and it being a publicly traded company now, they did something. They had to do something. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought it was Vince McMahon saying, hey, stick it to everybody. I'm not going anywhere. This is personal matters, but the money from the company and all that started to get a little hazy with the payouts. So basically being a publicly traded company, I was thinking, are they going to dissolve the publicly traded company and then just go on like they used to? But there was too much money involved there. But him coming back, that did surprise me because once he got out, I figured if he was coming back, it was going to be a few years down the road, not months later, and doing that. But hey, the other thing that's interesting about that, 2 board members, George Barrios and Michelle, now her name escapes me, but 2 board members left when Vince McMahon left. When Vince McMahon came back, those 2 board members came back, 2 others left, and then Stephanie resigned. She was supposed to take time off before all this went down originally, but not only is she taking time off, but she resigned. But who knows? Maybe down the road she can come back. I always say this, Stephanie and Triple H, their kids, I believe, are teenagers now. So maybe family had something to do with it. I know she just had some surgery done, but everything's okay. But maybe family had something to do with it too, not just all this business acumen. But that told me a lot, not only in Vince coming back, but when the 2 board members came back and those other 2 that filled in now went out. Now it's like Vince saying, hey, I don't care what anybody says. I'm the major shareholder. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm coming back. So that surprised me, though. It did.
How great is it, Jim? Royal Rumble is this Saturday night, premium live event. How great is it that they really seem to have pivoted, and they're putting all the premium live events now on Saturday nights? It's about time.
I like the Saturday night better than the Sunday night. I didn't know how I would feel about it because I'm so used to Sunday night. And the other thing you got to remember, too, having it on Sunday night, travel-wise made it a little bit easier, I think, because then Monday night is Raw. So usually your Sunday night pay-per-view is going to be near where Raw is going to be. So those that are working on Raw can just go there. Now, supposedly they have a day off on that Sunday because they're doing it on Saturday night. So I guess they can go home and do that for a day, but then those that are working on Raw still have to go on Monday to Raw. So that's a little different, scheduling-wise a little different. So that, to me, was sort of odd. But from a fan standpoint, yeah, put it on Saturday night is great. You don't have anything to do on Sunday. So there's no work, there's no school usually. So you have it on Saturday night, make it a big Saturday night event and do it that way. And they're seeing how it's working because obviously if it wasn't working, WWE is very good about that. That's why they are this multi-million, billion-dollar company. It's amazing that they look at that and see all right, is this working? It's not working, or we got to step back. But they like the Saturday format right now.
Do you hear anything? How about, Royal Rumble's a stadium show, WrestleMania, of course, which gets bid on now. It seems a few years out of advance they're doing it. SummerSlam is a stadium show as well. Do you hear anything about us getting, I mean, Hard Rock Stadium? I know they, the last show they had that was there, WrestleMania, what, 29 we're talking about? So something like 10 odd years. But that was before all the renovations. It's such a fantastic facility now. Do you hear anything about them coming back here for one of these shows?
They like Miami, of course. They like South Florida, and they know what's going on here. They were in the running to get it, and they finished second a few years ago. So it wasn't like Miami still wants to be involved with this. And we'll see down the road. I think they'll be back.
I guess the next one we know obviously 39 is in Hollywood this year. Then 40's Philadelphia. We don't know 41 yet, right?
Correct. Okay. So we'll see. But they are interested in Miami. Like I said, they were second a few years ago, and it was close, but the money makes some difference, makes a factor in all this too, and what they could do. And listen, Tampa never had a WrestleMania before, so they ended up going to Tampa, but that was very close to being Miami. And so they're there. They're there. The people, right. The structure's there. Listen, when Miami got it originally, Jose Pepe Diaz, politician, Miami. I'm not politicking speak here. He was a strong advocate of this. And they need someone like that to really push it, because when you're dealing with Vince McMahon, it's kiss the ring.
Yeah.
Kiss the ring. Seriously.
Yeah.
When you go to fly up to Stamford, Connecticut to have a meeting with him to do this, you're showing him how much you really want to do this. Others may bid. They have groups and they bid on it. Other cities, counties, they'll bid on it. But to go the extra mile and do things like that, make a flight up there and spend a few hours with them and say, we really love WWE. We really want you here. That means a lot too. Of course the money does, but that type of thing where Vince McMahon we all know this, has a big ego. That's him. But hey, give him credit what he's built. It's amazing. But when you go that extra mile with him, it does mean a lot.
Let's do some picks here, Jim. The women's Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble. What do you got?
Whoa. It's interesting because they're playing this whole thing up. The bloodline is amazing.
Amazing.
The whole thing, and Paul Heyman's part of it. And look at how Sami Zayn has elevated himself. It's interesting to see guys like Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston, and now Sami Zayn.
Yeah. How
opportunity has come for them. It's not always you're handpicked to be in this big spot. Something happens, and all of a sudden it just explodes into something. And with Sami Zayn and what he's been able to do with the bloodline, I would love to see him win and how they would play all that out leading up to WrestleMania, because now he could be in the main event going against Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the bloodline, the champion.
I think Sami's going to win the Rumble. I do.
I would really like to see that, because it adds that whole dynamic of what's going to happen. On the women's side, wow. I was hoping that Sasha Banks would return, and this would be her spot to return at the Royal Rumble, and she would win and go on and fight for her title in one of the big events at WrestleMania and all. I don't know if that's going to happen. So much. It's so amazing to me. Such a great talent. But I really think, I don't know this for sure. I don't know. It's only my opinion. But when she sees Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch having all these big spots, getting all this big money, and saying, hey, I can go toe-to-toe with them, and fans connect to me. Why am I not in more big spots? Why am I not getting more money? I think that has something to do with it. And do I know for sure? No. But I think it does. So I don't know if she's coming back for Royal Rumble. I don't know what's going to happen. I know she's been doing New Japan Pro Wrestling now. Who knows what will happen there? But Bayley winning the Rumble is always fun, because I just think Bayley is incredible, especially Bayley as a heel, then as a baby face. Rhea Ripley, I've seen, she's like the favorite when they look at the odds. They actually have odds. ZASLOW, they have odds for this.
I know. I love it. I love gambling on it.
You can bet on this. And I'm like, well, how do you bet on something?
I love gambling on a fixed event. I love gambling on a fixed event. I love it. I love gambling on a fixed event.
It's amazing. If I'm working behind the scenes in WWE, I'm making coin. I'm making lots of coin.
I think Becky is going to win it.
That I think is just I think Rhea Ripley, they're saying she's like one of the favorites. Yeah, I could see her winning. I'd love to see. Listen, I like Judgment Day. I like everybody in Judgment Day. I think Damian Priest, everybody's their own person, but I think Damian Priest could be the next Roman Reigns. That's how much I like Damian Priest.
Wow.
They give him some mic time, but I think listen, when Roman was there, it took him a while to get to there.
Yeah.
It really had, because they were like, well, it's good, very good in the ring, but his promos, he's got a great look. Promos. I think Damian Priest, at where Roman was at that point, is better on the mic at that point. Now it's different, but I'm just saying, I love Judgment Day. I wouldn't mind seeing Judgment Day with all the titles actually at WrestleMania. I think to me that would be great, but that means Finn or Damian would have to win and then beat Roman. So I don't know if they're going that route right now, but the women's title, Rhea, and the tag belts, even though they're in the mix right now, who knows? So, but I really like that dynamic of it. I like Judgment. I was sad to see Toxic Attraction dissolve when they had all that with Mandy Rose and her other ventures and all. Yeah. I'm like, let them make their money. They're all out there doing their thing, but they're under contract too, even as independent contractors. So if the company says don't do this, you got to listen. So
I think Becky's going to win. I think Becky versus Charlotte is WrestleMania all the way. Finally here, Jim, The Rock. Are we abandoning the hope there? It's been talked about for like 2 years now. It doesn't seem like we're going to get it.
This always reminds me of Hulk Hogan. Back in the day when Hulk was sort of done, or at least the hiatus on movies and TVs and doing other things, that was the surprise factor. It would get out on social media. Hulk was returning. Then you go to turn into the pay-per-view. He's not there. And everyone's ticked off. It's not the company's fault. It's everybody for saying he's going to be there. So I think this is one of those that morphed into it. I could see Rock doing something, even if it's not a singles match, tag match, because they're saying, well, he's not in ring shape. He's in great shape, but not in ring shape. And it takes him a while. And he's a perfectionist in a sense. He wants to do it right. So Rock coming back, having a singles match means it's going to take more time for him to get ready. But in a tag match, heck, we saw Cena the other night. He hadn't wrestled for a long time. He was on SmackDown in Tampa in a tag match with Kevin Owens. He was fine, did a couple spots. I could see him doing something with or against the Bloodline in a tag match. Do I think it's going to happen at this WrestleMania? I don't think so, because I think you have Sami Zayn. I don't think you need The Rock on this WrestleMania now because of what's happening with Sami Zayn. It's so big that you don't need that factor. But I could see Rock still doing something next year or the year after. Guys, they talked about, and I was reading about Stone Cold. They wanted to do something with Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar and all. And Stone Cold worked with Kevin Owens. So maybe they do something with Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar this year. I could see that as a possibility.
Wasn't Stone Cold great last year? I was so pleased with how it worked out. It was amazing.
Pleased. And I think that got his fires going again too. Like, okay, I've had all these injuries. I can still do this. I can get ready and do this. And I like it. It was great being out there and all. He had all positive things to say. Everybody had positive things to say. So I think that dynamic worked, and to have him, so interesting, because back in the day, it was supposed to be Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar, I think, on a Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And that's when Stone Cold walked out and left. I guess they were going to have Brock go over, and Stone Cold didn't like the whole setup, why it was building up to this and how it was going to work out, what they were going to do. And he just walked out, took the ball, and went home. So to have those two go at it, there's that history too, which is always interesting. So it creates a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. But I don't see Rock, even though it's Hollywood, I don't see Rock wrestling there this year unless it's a tag match. But I don't think they need him either. I think maybe save it for another time. And the other thing is too, I read about this. They were saying, oh, Rock is taking a couple months off. He's not doing any movies. No, he's taking time off because he's got the XFL starting.
Ah, yeah.
The XFL is starting up. That's why he's taking the time off from all that. That's his big venture now. So this thing is you're going to be starting after the Super Bowl. So that's what he's getting ready for, him and his team, Danny Garcia and Hiram and all the rest of them. They're all getting ready for XFL. So it would be a great surprise, of course. I don't see it happening this year, even though it's in Hollywood. They're all saying Hollywood, The Rock. But still going to be a great WrestleMania no matter what.
Jim, excellent job. Tell everybody how they can check out everything you got going on whenever you're covering these events.
Oh, my gosh. So MiamiHerald.com. We actually have a fighting page. So we have MMA and pro wrestling there. some boxing. I do some MMA coverage as well because we've got the two places, American Top Team and Kill Clip FC, right around the corner here with all great talent. It's amazing, the coaches and talent. So they can check it out there. At Jimmy B3 is my Twitter handle. Jim Varsallone. You got Jim Varsallone YouTube. So a lot of my interviews, I do some video, some audio interviews. I'll post them there too. So a lot of places to find some things that I'm doing. I like to do a lot too of up and comers. So I like to catch them when they're sort of on the rise, trying to make it and all. So I go way back when Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt were in NXT, FCW, Seth Rollins, and doing some interviews back then. And it's really cool. And I have everything there on YouTube for that. I save everything there. So that's fun for me to do. And hopefully the fans like that too. And just thank you for having me on the show as well. And we got to go with that wrestler. Give me the name again.
Johnny Cuba. Johnny Cuba.
Johnny Cuba's winning the Royal Rumble. That's why he's pretty.
A young up-and-coming guy. Cuba. That's right. A young up-and-coming guy. Excellent job, Jim. Enjoy the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. Happy Royal Rumble, everybody.